how long would it take the most sternest of faces, the most rock hard of faces, the most resting BF? How long would it take that person to acknowledge me, to wave or say hi? And the answer that I got was it took about a week of consistency.
Hello, everybody, and welcome to NanaTalks, podcasts which connects veteran-owned and military spouses businesses with money. And I have pleasure and honor talking with the best people out there. And today I'm talking to Timothy Jones. He's CEO of Colorful Voices, and he is a gladiator. We talked a bit before, and I'm absolutely in love with the personality. In my honest and humble opinion, Timothy is the true ray of sunshine. Absolutely incredibly inspiring person. Welcome, Timothy, and thank you so much for joining me.
Oh my gosh, Anna, thank you so much for having me. And it is truly my honor in being here and being able to share my story, which afterwards is our story. And I'm truly, truly humbled at our conversation and this opportunity and time that we have together.
Thank you. While I was preparing for our today conversation, I wanted to, just Google some numbers and got more idea regarding the mental issues and etc. Because we all know, right? At least we've heard about it, that like veterans and military spouses are facing some mental issues. But if you are not inside this bubble, you just heard about it, but you have no specific numbers or idea. So I decided, to go and Google to, again, educate myself a little bit better, mostly because honestly, well, I'm still nerd and numbers means everything to me. And the stats I found over there in the internet were so alarming. I mean, what I found, and that was just, this AI generated results, was that over 40% of all veterans struggle with their mental health and substance abuse. Over 10% of veterans in the United States report elevated level of anxiety, and 1.7 million of US veterans received treatments in a Veteran Affairs mental health specialty program. And we know for a fact that tons and tons of folk cannot receive those like treatments, and therefore they're not even the part of this statistic, which means that like 1.7 million is just the tip of the iceberg.
Mm-hmm.
And this is super alarming.
It's super alarming, and with the numbers, it can be alarming. And in this sense, the numbers actually are a good thing because it shows that the veterans are utilizing the services. And right now, that really is a high priority, is to get so many of the veterans into the VA services. And even the veterans who may not be eligible for services can still go to the VA to get mental health treatments. I was one of those veterans that did not want to get services because of how my active duty experience went. I actively avoided it, once I started receiving services, and my life really began that transformational stage. And where I am today, I could say the VA drugged me, kicking and screaming, as they might say, but the reputation of the VA, they've done a lot of great work to rebuild that trust between the VA and the veteran, and that's a personal relationship, one-to-one. But what you're facing is experience from active duty, stigma, shame, and a lot of those veterans who aren't speaking about their experience because it's either too harmful to either bring up or even think of. Those are really the veterans that we want to make sure that we are engaging with, so that they know that they're not alone, that their experience, that they don't have to suffer in silence.
Yeah, absolutely. And like, how do you do that? How do you reaching out these folks?
It's it's great, and I love what I do, and I want to what I you know, I'm gonna. This is me, my heart speaking here. It took a long time for me to get to this space and this place. And before I got here, I want to shout out just every single advocate, every single survivor who came forth from 1999 to today that are coming out and saying, hey, this happened to me, and their bravery, and those family members. I want to shout all of them out because they made a way and made it possible for me to, not when I disclosed that I was a survivor and reported it, but when I started getting services in 2012. 2012. And it takes a village in the community. So there are many services that are available through the VA. So if they're MST survivors, there's vet centers that are available. I highly recommend getting involved in. I'm a member of Team Red, White, and Blue. The mission continues. I love volunteering. I also serve on the board of our Three Rivers Business Alliance Foundation. It's our LGBTQ arm of our Chamber of Commerce. I serve as the Veteran Affairs Chair with the NAACP. I'm a member of Student Veterans of America. I bring these up and in because all of these are ways that assist and help, because these organizations support veterans, they're near and dear to my heart, but they also have services and resources available. Even within community, I highly recommend to all veterans to get involved into your community, because if there aren't resources there, you're the resource, and they can be poured into you so that you can expand the options. What our company does with Colorful Voices is create programming based on experiences that says, hey, okay, what's working for you? This is what's working for me. This is how we're working. We're creating that program as a collaborative effort, building programming and taking a nuanced approach and a holistic approach that says we need all parties available, but it also starts with us within. And the phrase that I've coined is mental hope, healing, and action. We have to look within, and we have to stop with the bullshit. We have to start telling what our symptoms are. When I did that changed the direction. I shared with all my symptoms, all out there, and as soon as I said what my symptoms, I was hearing voices and all of these things. My doctor was like, "Oh, he's bipolar."
Mm. So basically, you have to start, like, as they say, the first step of understanding your problem is to speaking up, right? Is to accept the fact that you do have a problem and there is nothing wrong with that. It doesn't mean that you were bad, that you are a bad person or anything like that. It just means that you have a problem and you need some help.
Yes. And I was tired of suffering. I was so tired of suffering, and I was tired of being part of the pain within the community. I'm over 3+ years sober from alcohol. My choice. I am incredibly proud and counting.
Oh,
And
you should be. That's amazing result.
yes,
Congrats on that. That's amazing.
one day at a time. But it was that DUI that I got, my first, and I pray that is my last. But that DUI changed the trajectory as well. That was another transformation because it was I had to sit down and say, okay, I couldn't tell anyone in my circle that I was struggling with alcohol, but I couldn't stop drinking. Right. But that wake up call forced me into getting assistance. And at the time, I hadn't gotten treatment for alcohol abuse. It was that course going through the Allegheny County Veterans Treatment Court and CTAD. CTAD is our area for alcohol and drug treatment for the VA, and just getting intense weekly psychotherapy, learning new tools. I have been on this consistency that in normalcy that I have not seen since I was a child. And I dare say many of our veterans, because a lot of us, we serve when we turn 18, 19. We come out of high school, we go into the military, or sometimes, so many of us will serve, we know we want to serve at 17. We've seen those stories.
Basically, children.
Children coming in and going into being an adult. So we've been in survival mode from that point on. To now know that I'm not in survival mode, that's what we also want to teach other veterans and other just human beings. And that's what I love about Colorful Voices. We're starting with veterans, but we're not ending with veterans. We want to spread our kindness, spread our love, spread our safe space across the pond and across all sections, because everyone deserves mental hope, healing, and action, and deserves to be able to live a life not in survival mode, but in thriving mode. Um, and,
Absolutely.
and it's not all kumbaya.
I mean, it is still life, right? The last time I checked, it was still life, and
Exactly.
that that means that it's gonna be ups and downs, and you never know where gonna be which. And getting back to this, like, you never know. When I was googling, right, all these results, and I was starting to discussing that with my friends, and in most cases they're more connected to the money, financial, economical side of a business in general. And they were like, well, that those are alarming numbers, but you do know that basically economy of the United States and the whole world is at the age of the breakdown, at the age of recession. It is already inevitable. We do know that as the fact. The only question is going to be how long will be the dark hours, right? That's the only thing we do not know. And that means that most probably all the questions like mental health and everything related to that, which is luxurious-ish comparing to providing food and house for your family, might be just pushed away from our attention. And for me, honestly, that only meant that we need to do better. What do I mean? Dark hours doesn't mean that you have to forget about everything. That mean, at least for me, the opposite, that you need to remember about your mental health because you're gonna need to stay strong. And if before, when you had, the support from government and everything else, you struggled, now if you won't have that support, you're going to struggle even more. That means that you're going to need to find that creative solutions, right? And for me, good examples of such creative solutions are, for example, my very first guest here at NanaTalks was Carol Hink. She is the CEO of True Wind Culture, and her dream. So she's doing sailing. She has sailing business, and her dream is to have opportunity to help through sailing to the veterans and military spouses who are suffering from PTSD, because she has, that phase, that sailing, that moments of openness, those moments of being present at the moment when all you have to take care about is reading sea. Those are the moments when you can rediscover yourself
Yes.
and starting talk with the other people. So it seems to me that we might need to find those, I don't know, interesting creative solutions, but that definitely doesn't mean that we have to stop.
Absolutely. It is in those creative solutions that there are many answers. As we know, one solution for one veteran works for that one veteran. It There are so many solutions, and that's the beauty of where we are, is that that's why there also isn't competition, because we need every bit of creativity, every bit of idea generation to solve these complex issues. And with the advent of technology, more AI, the onboarding of quantum computing, and how that is going to change civilization.
Do
Uh,
you think that AI is applicable as the part of the mental health help? Because I'm hearing, different voices and opinions
yeah,
regarding that.
I do believe that AI, first of all, I believe AI is assisting those, especially with TBIs and traumatic brain injuries, like myself, in just really being able to articulate our full, complete thought, where there might be some breakages there. Uh, but I also know that it's just going to help create, it's going to help aid the creative process. It's not going to take away, but it's going to help aid it in a way that is going to solve a lot of questions. But for every question we solve, it creates questions.
As always, yeah.
And it's in those new questions that we have new problems, and that is where our focus needs to shift. That's, that we support our survivors and thrivers and gladiators to provide them the tools and in many cases the toolbox to heal and move forward, and then begin equipping them to what's coming. And what is coming is being able to partner with with Miss Hink, excuse me, and sailing and these creative solutions on board, and bringing all of us together in some
Mm-hmm.
sort of fashion. It's fascinating. And that's the other piece that I'm really, and I've said this, I'm healing in action, and I'm here in this space perfectly equipped for where we are as a nation, where we are as a global community, and ready to go with the challenges that are being presented as well. Um,
Yeah, that's interesting because, like, just yesterday, I believe, I'm keep listening everything connected with the microeconomic, financial side, and at least in my bubble, everything currently for the last, I'd say, year and a half is all about like, oh, recession, yada yada yada. And just yesterday I had a chance, and honestly it seems to me that I was lucky enough to see the interview of Peter Thiel, and he was talking, that also one of the like big names in financial world, and he was saying the following, that recession is just the part of the cycle. Stop panicking. Stop running around as headless chicken. There is nothing wrong with that. That's only means that we've spent way too much. Now we have debt and we have to cover them.
Yeah.
What does it mean? That we need to create jobs. And who will create those jobs to provide people more money, which they will be able to spend? Small businesses, because big businesses currently, they have to cut. They're way too big. They have to do layoffs. They just forced to cut to reduce their spending.
Yes.
So if you found yourself outside without job, and you're struggling, and if you will think that, oh my god, this is recession, that means that I will not be able to find a job, instead of like sitting out there and crying and be frustrated, I do encourage you to think about starting your own business. It seems like impossible. It seems even like crazy idea. Yes, it is risky investment, but it is investment, because inevitably market will become better. And when it will become better in year 2 or 5, you already will have a business. So when the loans will get back to the very low percent of like interest rate,
Yeah.
you will be able to scale. You won't just start. And same with the mental, and I would say that the same principle is applicable to all the problems, right? If
Yeah.
you're currently in the crisis, that doesn't mean that you have to go down this spiral, right?
Yes.
Just like I'm bad because everything is bad, it's not helping. Start to do that risky investment. Start to invest in your mental health.
Queen, you said it so eloquently. And the best, the way I want to put that on that spin for the subscribers is just that. Colorful Voices started out as an idea in the mind that I pitched in 2015, and it was going to just be an app. And then as life went on, it shifted, it turned, I pivoted into where we are. And where we are, what you were saying was in economic development. I had heard about and I saw understanding economic development opportunities where the gaps were. And once I identified the gaps, and it's like, oh, wait a minute, I can become an employer. Holy crap. Not only can I become an employer, but being a defense contracting firm, yes, we're starting in my bread and butter, but going into different industries. Oh, wait a minute. The joys of living in Pittsburgh, the opportunity is we have the infrastructure already built for manufacturing, for the industry. All that I need is that support in getting started and getting going. And that also is a process. And for those who are listening, those who are watching, I say to you, this is your message. That risk, if you were thinking of taking the risk, take the risk. You were given that that vision, that dream, that was for you. That was, and as our sister Lisa Nichols says, it wasn't a conference call. It was just a regular call for you to take care of your champion. I almost died because I wasn't moving in service of my purpose. I wake up, I'm so alive and on fire every day. And in the days that I don't wake up on fire, that I'm not my best, I give myself the grace to be not okay, whereas I didn't do that before. Our company isn't about working 100 hours. The mental, we want to make sure, we want you to have a life. We want you to have a healthy work-life balance, because that process bakes into our company. Betting on yourself, investing in yourself, we want to ensure that you're doing that too. And we want to make sure that everybody's doing that. And that's the one thing that I really love, is because I wake up and I get to figure out how can we help somebody else today.
That's an amazing question to ask yourself. I think that we can and we should ask this specific question every day. Start the day from it, right? How
Yeah.
can I help somebody else?
And even if that helping them out is just in your energy level, it's just in providing a positive interaction. And you would be so surprised along my healing journey when I started prioritizing my mental health. I did three things along our trail here in Pittsburgh. I would walk down and I would see the runners and walkers, and I would have a big smile, just like this. And then I'd wave and I'd say good morning, good afternoon, or good evening. Those three things, regardless of their response. Now, I had a hypothesis. How long would it take the most sternest of faces, the most rock hard of faces, the most resting BF? How long would it take that person to acknowledge me, to wave or say hi? And the answer that I got was it took about a week of consistency. And then to the point where I didn't feel like, and I had resting bitch face, that they would be waving at me and giving me the energy. And I was like, and that's the little things. It's free. It didn't cost a thing. But it changed the energy, and it changed my energy. And when I couldn't afford to go outward, so I had to make the best of where I was at. And so being able to see that my way through. When I look back right now and I think of 25 years of finding out about my traumatic brain injury, 25 years of, now I'm acknowledged of being bipolar with manic episodes and being treated for that and in full remission. Paranoid schizophrenic, but I'm not hearing voices and haven't heard voices in 3 years. That's a blessing. I'm not jaded. I've gone through the emotions and will continue to go through those emotions. When I think back and then I look ahead, first of all, I look at where we are today. And I'm so very thankful. I'm thankful for you. I'm thankful for those who are going to see this and be inspired or just want to have a conversation with Big Bro or just really want to find ways to get active. I look at that and I say, I'm very thankful that I made it today. And
Oh yeah.
I'm thankful that I was bad about unaliving myself. I failed horribly at that, and I'm glad that I did. As I look forward, I am in heavily inspired because I see the road that, yes, it's going to be paved, it's going to be thorny, it's going to be twisty, it's going to be all of those moments that we have on the road, but there's a road that mental hope, healing, and action is paving with support of the community and will be able to continue to light the pathway for others to follow. And that is going to extend beyond my experience and existence on this earth. And that's the dash that I want to leave for my family and for other generations, to be able to have a legacy of U.S. Steel and have that conversation be happening hundreds of years from now. and not be worried about it being sold.
Yeah,
And
people are still people, right? Even we know for a fact that even 100 years from now, they still will have exactly the same conversation because they already did, right?
exactly,
1,000 years ago, I'm pretty sure maybe they were using slightly different wording, but emotions were exactly the same. At its core, our problems as the human beings are exactly the same.
exactly. And that is, it's tough. It's a beautiful, it's beautiful when you start figuring it out. And when we don't want to leave anyone behind. There have been so many times I felt left behind. I felt discarded, not uh, not that I'd even be able, what could I contribute to the conversation, or what good could I do? I thought I dishonored my community. I thought I dishonored my country when I got discharged. Even though it was honorable discharge, my DD 214 still said, which is my discharge paperwork, still said homosexual conduct / acts. So every time I would go for a job, I was outing myself. Like, here you go. This, this is a window into my bedroom, and
That's so weird. I mean, God, that,
yeah. It
you
didn't say
shouldn't.
don't that's hotel. It just said homosexual conduct / acts. I was like, that's too visual.
That's, yeah, and you're absolutely right. And I cannot even imagine, what what you felt at that moment when you were going through the job interview, and they presumably, doesn't really matter with whom you're talking to, presumably should look at you as a professional human being, yada yada yada. But you do understand inevitably, right, that if they've seen that like line in your like documents, they will think about it, not because they're like bad human beings, but because they are human beings.
And
And if you've seen that, you just cannot forget about it.
absolutely. And when you look at the time that I did 27 months in service, which is a little over 2 years. That thankfully, that is why I got all of my benefits as an honorably discharged veteran. Is because I crossed that threshold. But that also was a flag, because most of your service times, you would think 3 years for some sailors, but you would generally see 3, 6, or 4, 8 in those increments. 27 months is immediate flag, and then you say, okay, he did something. Oh, there's an honorable discharge, but then you look at the cons, and you're like, oh, that's what he did, and then
Mm.
so then it looks to be different. So what was so amazing about the repeal of Don't Ask, Don't Tell was that just that alone. However, it didn't change some of like the code, some of the codes to re-enlist. I was way past that point, no, that standard. Um, However, it goes to show the effects and the consequences of legislation, and how that can affect one entity and one individual in just a job, just looking for a job. Um, it's funny because I was looking at my DD 214 over the last couple of weeks, and I haven't had I believe I can get that changed, but as I was looking at it, I also was looking at how and paying attention to how I felt. And I no longer felt the discarding feeling, being discarded, or being isolated, or feeling of I don't belong, or haven't found my place. And I believe that's because what I was meant to do is what I'm doing now. and this is the route I had to take in order to get there. And I'm interested to see how that feeling unfolds within me, because that's a new feeling for me.
Yeah, I do understand absolutely what you're talking about, because there are a lot of stuff and things, in most cases material, right, which connects us to some memories or points of our lifetime. It can be happy, the happiest moments, or it can be the worst moment. And to see how your emotions, how your memories are changing within time, not necessarily memories, let me correct myself here, but our feeling connected to those memories are changing within time as we are working through them, as we are living our life, and we are getting smarter and more wise, hopefully, because it's not necessarily right happening like that, unfortunately. But yeah, I absolutely do understand what you're talking about. And sometimes even the memories by themselves can be changed, maybe slightly, because I mean, I do remember the period of the breastfeeding, and that wasn't very good experience in my case, because my son had a very, very early teeth, so that was painful.
Yeah.
uh, but now, I mean, if you would ask me about the breastfeeding experience when my son was 2 years, that would be like, don't go there that way. Just
Yeah.
but now he's 9, and what I do remember is the, tiny piece of my son laying right next to me. He was snoring and sleeping, and those moments of connection, they were much more important than, small physical pain I was going through. So
Yes.
within 7 years, not only my emotions, but my emotions and therefore memories changed.
Exactly. Exactly. And that's what we aim to do in an intentional way. And that is to be able to have a veteran have those level of conversations and be able to revisit those memories and look at it from that angle that they might have been running away from seeing or possibly couldn't see at the time because of what was happening in that moment. But now that they have the space to breathe, now that they are, being accepted. And the other piece about that is they've got my voice. The VA has my voice. But we want to work with those same veterans and their families to say, hey, we want to bring you into the Colorful Voices family, and we want you to come in and research. We want you to join the team and what that looks like. And by the way, we want you to focus on your healing. You're gonna get paid to go to therapy. You're gonna get paid to go do all of these tough things because they're tough. It's difficult looking into the mirror and into yourself. That's the hardest thing that an individual will do, is to look inside oneself and then go from there. But that is what it's going to take in order to go to those levels that have not been seen or heard from before within an individual. And I look forward to unlocking and helping so many people unlock that within themselves, just as it's been unlocked within me and continue to be unlocked within me. And it's it's just a really, really exciting time, because I also know that the community is ready for it too. The community is ready for it. It's the right time. And with everyone embracing themselves and embracing one another, yes, I'm so excited.
Yeah, do you mind to share a little bit of the beginning of this journey? What was your pivotal moment? Because, for all of us, that's different. But at its core, it's mostly about the same.
Oh yeah, the pivotal moment was I was attending. I went to school. I graduated from Pensacola State College with my general degree in associates. I'm a few courses away from my bachelor's at the University of West Florida, and I went to the Entrepreneurship Boot Camp for Veterans (IVMF) at Syracuse University. I was getting ready for a meeting at UWF, and the individual I was meeting with at the time just had mentioned that Timothy, that's that guy with the colorful voice. And I was like, he didn't mean it in a positive manner. And I started thinking, I'm like, I do have a colorful voice. There's so many other colorful voices. I'm going to name my company Colorful Voices because I want to see others come out with that color within their voice. And then it also was a play on what I endured after I was assaulted. The color within my voice went to a dark shade of gray and black, and my favorite color is orange. So I said, you didn't see that when you were kind of around me. My energy wasn't like that. So my color, the color within my voice was taken away from me. And how this came about, continued to come about, was after I got out of jail. It was brought to my
You're not making it better. You're like, and by the way, boom, 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 boom.
go to jail, girl. I had to do all this stuff. But when I was
But
coming,
here you are today.
here I am today, and someone was saying, "Hey, you're not going to be with a felony on your record. You're not going to be able to be successful. You're not going to be able to get a job." And I'm like, oh, I guess I'm going to have to start a company. And then I'm like, if I'm going to start a company, how am I going to help? How am I going to help people? How am I going to take my journey and allow this to not be the negative? That I'm going to turn all this into something positive. I'm going to be a motivational speaker. So if I want to be a motivational speaker, I got to do the research into the industry and the business, because really I want to tell my story. I want to share my story, but that's speaking. That's exactly what that is. So how do I also do that on military installations? And the fun story, how I actually got going, was I attended Speak and Write to Make Millions virtually by Lisa Nichols' Speak and Write event, and you got a free ticket. If you made enough noise, you got a free ticket to the whole event. I made enough noise, got to the whole event for the weekend. And if you made enough noise to the weekend, you got a whole ticket to the event in person and that next year. You just had to pay for your travel to get there. I won the ticket and I had to pay for my travel to get there. I had never spoken and before that and no one gotten paid to. And I was like, okay, it's time to get my story out there. An article went out and I got a speaking engagement with 7 Special Forces. And the rest, as they say, is history. And then that following year, I was dancing on stage with Lisa Nichols. And our pivot came in 2019. I was booked to speak at Great Lakes in Chicago. Returning home, I was so excited to be speaking to the sailors, and then I got denied access to the base. I am an honorably discharged, disabled veteran, by that point, I had already met the vice president, our current president. So I'm passing the Secret Service background check, and I'm like, well, why am I getting denied access? And what I was informed of was it was the company who had the larger contract. When they negotiated that contract, speakers were believed to be third-party employees. And
Mhm.
now the light bulb in my head went off that said, if you block the messenger, you block the message. So, and that's not a trauma-informed response because most survivors have issues like mine, or they're not cookie cutter and clean.
Absolutely. You cannot be. Come on. I mean,
Because at the end of the day, we got to be real. We got to keep it 100. 20 minutes out of my life, I was assaulted. I was raped. There were other times where I was physically assaulted and I was, harassed. But then the other times, in the 25 years of my life, those are my actions. And I,
right.
I didn't make the best of actions forward from that. And that's what people need to also hear is that accountability piece. So although it's not access, they used my video from another training performance that I did. So, but I said, I need to have my company be at the forefront of these conversations. I need to be working with these other companies. I'm going to take my company from a small business to a bigger business that also, but staying and keeping with getting our market share and being at this table. There's enough for us to do this, and that is possible for us being a firm. And then I started doing my research. Who's certified? Who's how many actual firms are doing this? There's a lot of government contractors, but how many firms are doing this? And that number drastically shrinks in size. And that's the niche that we entered. But our plans to scale are our plans to go into different countries, to take our program of mental hope, healing, and action into those countries where we're bringing on stage real time and celebrating the community together. And I just took that moment in because as we're in my office, I have my mom's ashes here in my office here. And I told her, and when I was 8 years of age, I was going to do three things. Told her I was going to encounter some difficulty, I was going to move to Japan, I was going to be rich. I've encountered difficulty, I've lived in Japan, and Yana, I am the richest that I've ever been in my life. I have family, friends, a plethora of professionals who are helping to guide me to ensure that I will never be homeless ever again. And this feeling is what I am so excited about sharing and celebrating in everybody else. And that's what mental hope healing and action is really giving me the ability to truly be happy for another while taking care of self fully and completely. That was a real girl. That was a real, okay.
Oh, oh, I felt it. But I was like, I catch myself that, my mission is like to be able in 5 years to say that every minute at Nana Fund, some business gets funded. Every minute I'm helping somebody. I want to get to that specific statistic and and how we can make that happen, right?
Yeah.
Well, of course, be bold, yada yada yada, but like how I've seen that in my head, and it's not dream, that's goal, and I'm moving toward that, right? Is when you need to get a car, you call Uber, right? When you need to find apartment for rental, Airbnb. When you need to get funded, Nana Fund. But when you need to take care about yourself, call for voices.
You know
And
it.
you have to do that.
Yes.
Because entrepreneurship, that's hard. It is lonely, it is hard road, and I mean it's hard to compare with anything else, but it is hard. And if you feel discouraged, if you feel or going through challenging times, you you need to find your community. And it's not, when you're going through entrepreneurship or especially raising capital or something like that, they're going to tell you that the most important out there is networking. And what you're thinking about or what you envision when you're hearing networking, right? Is okay, so I'm going to go or I have to go to do network, which means to pitch, right? To sell myself. And that's super unpleasant thing to do. What people actually like, what they wanted to say is that surround yourself with exactly the same people. And I do encourage folks who are forced to do networking, do not sell yourself, don't do pitches, connect with people, and mostly not with the investors or, or I don't know, valuable people. And I'm using air quotes here for good reason. Find out there your soulmates. Find out there people who are going through exactly the same issues as you're going through. Even better, if you're going through slightly different issues. You don't know how to raise, they don't know how to get customers. Sit together, talk, have some tea, be human beings. Try to help each other. That's going to be much more valuable than trying to pitch and sell and get some, revenue right away. At first, you have to put value on the table and be very candid about what you're doing and why you're doing that.
I'm snapping, Queen, because you are 1,000% correct. I, I just in Colorful Voices in our journey, why we are successful in where we are today is because we have been 100% honest about where we are and transparent in the road. Because we also want to build a sustainable business that is here, which is the goal of many entrepreneurs, of all entrepreneurs, is to have a sustainable business and then get out in time. You're correct. Having that support in that community, that was the thing. I needed to build my community around me. I had to also build up boundaries and having to adjust to those boundaries while building a business, while um, also documenting all of these experiences so that we're crafting this programming. You are at 1,000% correct when you're telling the audience and giving them the beautiful advice of investing in oneself, of being present, and oh my gosh, seeing the future. I had a bit of a mental slip there for a second.
Man, that's always over there. Yeah. So talking about future, what's going to be the future of Colorful Voices? What's going to be next 5 years? 10,
Oh,
50, 500?
I am. Whew. I love taking these moments to enjoy where we're growing. So the future of Colorful Voices looks a little bit like this. We are going to establish programming for women who are fleeing domestic violence. That is a program we want to do across the world, and we're going to start with Kenya, and we're going to have another or sister version here in Pennsylvania. So we have already selected 2 sites. We'll start in Pennsylvania next year, 2025, and then we'll add Kenya 2026 for that programming.
That's amazing.
Now,
This is amazing.
mental hope, healing, and action. We want to take this message on the road. My mentor, I have been so graciously blessed with mentors who have. I know that when you have the level of access and mentors that I've had and have, there's a responsibility to. And I've asked my mentors to join me on this journey of mental health healing and action, of going to rural communities, going to the communities, and bringing resources to them. Resources like aftermath, and that many families may not be aware of or know of, even financial planning. And not only bringing those resources, but bringing my one of my mentors is Mr. Philip Brashear. I'm so honored and proud to call him not just my mentor, but my father figure. His family have literally done so much for me and my family. And as a sailor coming out of homelessness, having a mentor to look up to has been wonderful. And he's graciously just been such a contributor of knowledge to myself. And I see colorful voices in mental hope healing and action taking going on the road with dedicated military leaders, community leaders, and stakeholders as we are really shining a light on communities of color, and really being able to be a steward to give back in those communities. I also see colorful voices taking our market share within governmental contracts and partnering with amazing entities that I'm excited for those partnerships to grow and be fruitful. Really growing in that space, and also being a leader in how we treat our employees, how we treat our team members, how we treat our C-suite executives. You know, I own the company, but I am all about community first, and I'm really, really looking excited for how that part of my philanthropic efforts are going to grow within the community as well. And that's the future that I see for Colorful Voices, and continuing to embed ourselves within the community and working with our international allies, because you know what? I am the right veteran. The right veteran business. So serve. We want to serve and bring this fire and energy everywhere. Because as I said, mental health healing and action is for everybody.
Amen. What might be the best moment to say thank you so much? It was a great pleasure and honor. And I hope that, I wouldn't be surprised if at some point of a time, and I don't know, maybe, and years I cannot know, but fingers crossed we're going to be there, right? I'm going to hear something like, oh yeah, Colorful Voices are preparing pioneers who are going to Mars, because they also need to prepare themselves. So I really, really hope, and I wish you all the best. Thank you so much for your service, for all the hard job you're doing and you will continue to do. I know that for a fact. And thank you so much for being with me today. That was Timothy Jones, CEO of Colorful Voices and True Gladiator.
Bye,
Thank you.
everyone. Thank you for having me, Queen. Yes.
Okay.